Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Tom LoBianco Reports, episode 20. I am Tom LoBianco. It is Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Big week ahead of us. I hope everybody had a restful weekend. Before we get to the heavy news, we got some breaking news here on the show. Ian Walters and Karen Walters are now the proud parents of 5 wonderful children. Welcome to the world. Number 5, the latest member of the Walters clan. Ian, of course, is not here with us today. He is out being an even better dad than he usually is. Congratulations. We're all very happy for you, man. Name to come, more details to come. We'll keep everybody in suspense. So happy for the Walters family. Way to go, guys. If you want to know why we do this, this is why, right? So that our families can grow and thrive happily in the United States of America, where we are still here today. A lot going on, a lot to unpack from the end of last week. A lot as we head into this week. Coming up on the show later today, Matt Lewis, host of Matt Lewis and the News. You can find him on Substack and YouTube. We pre-taped the interviews, so we won't be taking any questions and comments today. Unfortunately, I am not able, I don't have the streaming bandwidth here to run the Substack live and watch the comments on there for our live show today here at noon. If you're watching us on the replay at 8 p.m., on Political Voices Network on YouTube. You can drop your comments in there. I will get to those later today. Matt Lewis and I will be talking about what to understand of evangelicalism and what the Charlie Kirk funeral Sunday in Arizona showed us about the state of things. What can we learn from that? Before we do that, let's get to the headlines. Latest, here's from NBC. We find out that, this is the New York Times rather, U.S. run TikTok to license algorithm, White House says. Now, this is very important. If you've paid attention to the show, you know that a big thing that's happening right now is the consolidation of media under Larry Ellison, the Ellison family, taking over Paramount, CBS, and also potentially CNN. This is an ongoing story. Very big news here. White House, Donald Trump previewed this last week, talking about who might be involved in this, including the Murdoch family, Lachlan Murdoch, potentially Rupert Murdoch. No word yet on how this would change the powerful platform. And of note, there is an additional timeline for which this can be appealed, dealt with, perhaps punted even further down the road. That's the latest on TikTok and our media. You may have saw last week, before we hit the weekend, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert, resigned in protest after Donald Trump pressured him to seek federal charges against his stated political enemies, people that he has long attacked, including New York Attorney General Letitia James, former FBI Director James Comey, and a current Democratic Senator from California, Adam Schiff. After Siebert resigned, Trump announced that he had fired him and then said that he was directing Pam Bondi to seek charges against them anyway. Now, this is very big, folks, if this were to happen. Before we get to that, let's read the latest here. So this is Headline: Trump pushes Justice Department to prosecute his political opponents. This is from the BBC. President has called on the country's top law enforcement official, Attorney General Pam Bondi, to more aggressively investigate his political adversaries. Quote, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam, Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done, Trump said on Saturday. His statement was roundly criticized by Democrats, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Quote, this is the path to a dictatorship, Schumer said. Quote, the Justice Department has always been a very, very strong civil service, no matter who is in charge, a Democrat or Republican. They went after law violators without fear or favor, he told CNN on Sunday. Quote, he's turning it into an instrument that goes after his enemies, whether they're guilty or not, Schumer said of the president. I would note that under U.S. law, if a federal prosecutor, the attorney general, is to actually obtain charges against anyone, they must go through the grand jury. They must present their evidence to a grand jury. Now, this is a pretty high hurdle. As we found out, I would note, with regards to Trump himself and during the Biden administration, and how then Attorney General Merrick Garland handled the many inquiries into Trump, including his removal of boxes of classified information from the White House and the follow-up to the January 6th insurrection, the attack on the Capitol, and the attempt to overthrow Trump's 2020 election loss. We'll be paying close attention to that here as this develops. Very interesting story over the weekend from NBC News. Veteran reporters Carol Leonnig, formerly of the Washington Post, and Ken Delanian report. Headline, NBC News, Tom Homan was investigated for accepting $500,000 from undercover FBI agents. Trump's DOJ shut it down. In an undercover operation last year, the FBI recorded Tom Homan, now the White House border czar, accepting $50,000 in cash, indicating he would help the agents who were posing as business executives win government contracts in a second Trump administration, according to multiple people familiar with the probe and internal documents reviewed by MSNBC. The FBI and the Justice Department plan to wait to see whether Homan would deliver on his alleged promise once he became the nation's top immigration official. But the case indefinitely stalled soon after Donald Trump became president again in January, according to 6 sources familiar with the matter. In recent weeks, Trump appointees officially closed the investigation after FBI Director Kash Patel requested a status update on the case, two of the people said. It's unclear what reasons the FBI and Justice Department officials gave for shutting down the investigation, but a Trump Justice Department appointee called the case, quote, a deep state probe in early 2025, and no further investigative steps were taken, the sources say. Full quote here. On September 20th, 2024, with hidden cameras recording the scene at a meeting spot in Texas, Homan accepted $50,000 in bills, according to an internal summary of the case and sources. Other reporting has said this was delivered to Homan in a kava bag. That's kava. Lots going on, folks. Lot to follow. We got a lot coming up this week. We're going to be talking with Mike Madrid, longtime Latino voting expert on sentiments. We'll be looking at sentiments amongst Asian Americans, Asian American voters, especially with the new H-1B visa later in the week. And expect to get a very excellent update on where the shutdown is from 24 Sight's own Julie Grace Brufke, who is up on the Hill reporting on all of this. Before we get to my interview with Matt, I wanted to say thank you. Thanks for being here, guys. I really appreciate it. This is important. It's more important than ever that we continue to do this, that we continue to practice our First Amendment rights, continue to report without fear or favor on what is happening. You might recall I had Charlie Sykes on last week, and this is what he said a couple of days before ABC canceled Jimmy Kimmel. And this is before he said, and this is in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting, he said, now is not the time to cower or hide, but now is the time more than ever to use our First Amendment rights. Now is the time to speak up, to say plainly what is happening in our country. And that is what we're doing here. So, folks, please help us here at 24 Site News. Make sure to head over to 24site.news and sign up. Rearranging the schedule a little bit as we continue tinkering with what works best for folks. If you have some ideas, please let me know. You can reply to the email. I will be sending out the email after our live show now on which starts at noon on Substack. I'll be sending it out in the afternoon. And of course, you can also catch the replay at 8 p.m. on Political Voices Network. So you might noticed that I did not talk directly about the Charlie Kirk funeral at the top of the show. That's because we talk about it extensively, Matt Lewis and I here. There's a lot going on, and it's important that we understand it. Clearly, the Charlie Kirk murder was, and it has been, an inflection point in how this second Trump administration is handling things and becoming even more aggressive. But I would note that there's still a fair amount of bluster with regards to this, and laws are in place. Things are complicated. So we unpack that a little bit here. Here's Matt Lewis. All right, joining me now, guys, Matt Lewis, host of Matt Lewis and the News. How's it going, Matt?
Hey, Tom, doing good.
So for folks who don't know, if you're not, a regular viewer of 24 Site or Matt Lewis, we have a long history of diving in on exactly this question. All right, the merger of politics and Christianity, where the lines are on this. And Matt, I've always turned to you as an expert on this because you've lived this. What was your takeaway from the Kirk funeral?
Well, look, I was really torn, Tom, to be honest with you. I mean, on one hand, someone who grew up as a Christian, who's still is a believer and goes to church. On one hand, it was just really awesome to see tens of thousands of people worshiping the Lord and gathering together and not being ashamed to talk about their faith. And, growing up, the thing that you always hope for is a revival, this country returns to the Lord. I would like that to be voluntary. I believe in pluralism. I don't believe in a theocracy, but there was a part of me that found this to be really awesome. Unfortunately, the other side of it is sort of the dark side, which is, I think, the conflating of faith with politics. And I mean, look, this is a long topic we can delve into, because I do believe that it's perfectly good and in fact great, actually, that if people of faith are involved in politics. What I don't like is the blurring of the lines between a person's faith and their politics, because at a certain point, if Charlie Kirk is a prophet and a martyr, then there's like an implication, I think, coming from this event that MAGA is God's plan. And that, I think, is troubling. So really, to answer your question, I'm very much mixed emotions about this, Tom.
Well, that's really fascinating, because, I think for a lot of folks, if you're not steeped in this stuff, you might think to yourself, and, certainly on the left, this has been the thing for years, that, oh, well, this already happened. right? This is already right. A lot of folks have been saying that the Republican Party has been a Christian nationalist party for years, right? So that's been one of the talking points. But this is really new. This is something different. I mean, what's new about this?
Well, it's definitely an escalation. Look, I think it has been the fact for a while now that disproportionately people who are, evangelical, let's say, because there's different denominations and different religions and all of that. But evangelical Christians have been by and large, increasingly Republican, and some of that is because I think also the Democratic Party has become less religious. I think that the data, the polling would bear that out. They become more secular, less likely to attend church. It wasn't that long ago, Tom, when Jimmy Carter, who was a devout Christian and taught Sunday school, did very well with Christian conservatives, and that it was kind of a bipartisan thing. But I think as we've sorted, as politically as we've sorted, just like people who live in rural areas versus cities, that is a predictor of how they're going to vote politically. Education, it's like everything in our lives has become sorted and polarized, and I think faith is one of those things. So this, I think, this didn't come out of the blue, but I do think that it was this was a turning point, so to speak, certainly a data point of when I think Christian faith and politics and Republican politics have become conflated to a degree that it had not been before.
I'm going to read you a headline from yesterday from the New York Times live blog of this, with some very excellent reporting throughout the service. This is from Elizabeth Diaz, their religion reporter at the New York Times. Headline: The memorial revealed an extraordinary fusion of government and Christianity. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, paid tribute to Charlie Kirk by citing the gospel message of the death and resurrection of Jesus. Stephen Miller, a deputy White House chief of staff, envisioned a spiritual uprising in Mr. Kirk's wake. Vice President J.D. Vance said Mr. Kirk's influence had reshaped the balance of American politics and traced it back to Mr. Kirk's faith. Because of Mr. Kirk, quote, I have talked more about Jesus Christ in the past 2 weeks than I have my entire time in public office. The belief that Mr. Kirk is a modern day Christian martyr was infused throughout the service, and it's solidified in real time through testimonies from a who's who of conservatives, planting Mr. Kirk's story firmly into a line of Christians over history who lost their lives with their faith. Quote, we must remember that he is a hero to the United States of America, and he is a martyr for the Christian faith, Vance said.
Yeah. Wow. So much to unpack there. So much to unpack there. Look, on one hand, I think that Charlie Kirk was obviously brutally murdered. Almost everybody in America saw it. So, the videos were unavoidable, and he obviously didn't deserve that. I also don't think he deserves to be considered on par with, say, a Martin Luther King Jr. I think that's a stretch. And I think there's an intentional attempt to turn him into kind of a martyr and on par with someone like King. Again, I think that is inappropriate. Look, Christianity and religion have been co-opted throughout the years for evil and good. But great good has come from the mixing of religion and politics. We could talk about William Wilberforce, who a Christian member of Parliament in Great Britain, who led the fight for abolishing the slave trade and then eventually abolishing slavery because of his faith. We could obviously talk about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So I don't want to be one of these people who says there's no place for faith. I'm motivated by my faith to a certain degree, in part to get involved in politics. And I think there's a lot of liberals and conservatives who sort of fit that category. What concerns, there's really two things here, though, Tom, that bother me, or that worry me a little bit. One is, again, I feel like there is a co-opting of Christianity to advance a political agenda that isn't always actually in line with Christianity. And in fact, some cases, I think there's a great tension, if not opposition, to Christian values in that political movement.
Yeah.
That, to me, is maybe even sacrilegious, but it's certainly inappropriate and it's troubling to me. Here's the other thing, Tom, though, that worries me. If MAGA, a sort of right-wing Republicans, can create a perception that Christianity and that Jesus Christ are one and the same with their movement, what do you do if you're a liberal person and you get invited to church? What you say is, I can't be a part of those people. Those people are hypocrites. Those people are liars. Those people have sex with porn stars. Those people, J.D. Vance is a tool. I can't go to church. I'm not one of those. That's what those people are. So I think that there's a danger that you could actually be kind of, on one hand, I'm excited by the fact that I think there are people who will be open to hearing about Jesus because of Charlie Kirk and because of this ceremony. I also think there's going to be some people who are going to say, like, if that's Jesus, then I'm out. No thanks. I don't want to hear about this Jesus guy, because in my mind, they're now conflated with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Dan Bongino, and go down the list.
Wow. Great point, man. And we've been having this debate over, for days now, even before Jimmy Kimmel was canceled by the FCC, Nexstar, Tegna, and Trump, and of course Bob Iger at Disney. Even before that, of the First Amendment, free speech issues. But of course, the First Amendment also establishes freedom of practice of your chosen religion, and very important here, freedom of or from religion, and no state religion. Both of those things just incredibly foundational to who we are as Americans.
Yeah. And what's interesting about it is that, a lot of the biggest proponents of MAGA are people who come from religions or sects that were persecuted. I'm originally from Maryland. That was like a safe haven for Catholicism. And you've got J.D. Vance, who's a Catholic convert. I don't think he should want an America where there's like a theocracy and someone deciding, how you worship or who you worship. For Baptists, I'm actually a member of a Baptist church technically, although I don't necessarily consider myself a Baptist per se. I do believe in immersion baptism. And Tom, you went there with me to this church when you were writing your book on Mike Pence.
Yeah,
we talked and thought it'd be a great idea to go experience it's like to go. This is sort of an evangelical type church, but it's technically part of the Southern Baptist Convention. You came with me. They were discriminated against by by other people who thought that they had to be Anglican or something. So I'm not. You called me an expert. I would not say I'm an expert on this part of it, but I do know enough to know that if you are someone who is a believer, you should not want there to be a very super close relationship between church and state. That is not a great thing, because you never know who's going to be in control at a given time. And your religion, your faith, may be on the outs at that time.
Yeah, one of the reasons when the founders landed on this in the First Amendment, in the Bill of Rights, was because they did not want it coming from England, fleeing England, that had a state religion. All right, and also too, they wanted the colonies, now the states, united. And they didn't want to have to choose between Anglican, Presbyterian, Lutheran, because everybody should be welcome to it. And there, it's funny how much of the freedom was rooted in a practical political compromise to help found the United States. I wanted, and folks watching now, if you just joined us, so we pre-taped this earlier today. Matt will not be around to take any questions at the end of the show, but I'll be here, and I will do my darndest to actually channel Matt, as I've done often over the years. He has a lot of wisdom in this area, and so Matt, what do you think of this free speech battle? Because so as much of this as this is and was about Charlie Kirk, the sitting president of the United States almost instantaneously made it a political war against his stated enemies. So, where do you think we stand right now? Certainly coming after a really wild last week. Where is the state of free speech in America?
Under attack. It is very interesting. I mean, look, I think this all goes back to Donald Trump's, first term. He had people who were reining him in. He had the quote unquote deep state. He had establishment figures, and Trump didn't really know what he was doing, and his true believers didn't really know what they were doing. But he got that 4 years in the wilderness where they really came up with this Project 2025, and they purged out, not only, liberals, but like establishment Republicans and anyone who might want to think independently, or even slow down or question Trump or the MAGA philosophy. And now here we are. And I think, it was David Frum who said the velociraptors have learned how to turn the doorknobs. That's where we are. And so I think Trump has always had these authoritarian tendencies. He's always viewed hate speech as speech he hates. He just didn't have the capacity. But now we're at a point where he has brought so many people to heel, and he's now even expanding into having his acolytes or allies controlling Twitter, controlling TikTok, and even via the FCC pressuring and controlling ABC, big networks who need mergers or other favors from the government. So this is getting really, really dangerous. And does it ever? When does it hit like YouTube and Substack? Right now, the FCC,
wow.
They basically manage terrestrial, I guess, the spectrum, but Trump is expanding, and I don't know where this ends. And here, the other thing too is I kind of view this as like a football game where it's like you start trying to run out the clock. If we could just hold on for another 2 minutes, we win the game. We're only like 8 months into this, Tom. There's another 3 years, 3 years and 4 months that Trump has to consolidate power. And I mean, at the pace he's going, I don't know that we can make it another 3 years or whatever.
Do you, the Eric Siebert, his appointed U.S. attorney out of a very important district, Eastern District of Virginia, which tries quite a number of big national cases, a lot of national security cases. He resigned recently when they found insufficient evidence to prosecute Letitia James and James Comey. And immediately Trump said that he wanted his attorney general. He said, evidence be damned. I want them prosecuted. No statement of what the evidence is.
Quickly.
Yes.
He doesn't want to make the same mistake that Biden made. They waited too long to go after Trump. If they had, if Merrick Garland had aggressively gone after Trump, then the whole world may be very different. But it seems like Trump's watching the clock. He's doing game management as he marches down the field and continues to score touchdowns.
Let me ask you, do you think that would actually happen? Do you think that that the Justice Department of the United States would, number one, could they even file charges without evidence? I don't think you can file charges, right? I think you can begin an investigation, but I think you would need a grand jury for that, wouldn't you? So there's still some clear hurdles to this, kind of to bring the president's wild statements back to earth, right? I don't think
Yeah.
that
Well,
that's something that would,
I
yeah.
think two things are true, Tom.
Hmm.
I think on one hand, we are not a full-blown autocracy, and there still are, institutions, and so yes, I think you're correct. On the other hand, I think that we have seen things happen that if you had said to me 5 or 10 years ago, could it happen? I would have said, no, that could never happen. This will stop them. There's too many guardrails that will stop them. And so, specifically to your point, Tom, I think you are correct that in this instance, at this time, Trump will not actually be able to do what he wants to do. But I think that what's happening is over time, he's eroding, he's tearing down guardrails, he's normalizing ideas that even by talking about this, Tom, he is now normalizing ideas that will make it easier for him to do something else that would have once seemed unthinkable down the road. And, at a certain point, you get rid of, he keeps purging anybody who would question him and replacing them with people who will do whatever he says. Constitution be damned. I mean, I don't know where that leads us ultimately. Again, think of what he's done in the first 8 months and consider that we've got over 3 years to go.
I think often about how Gavin Newsom has been mirroring Trump recently in his comments, writing tweets and whatnot in all caps, mirroring his language. Certainly as somebody at the top of hypothetical candidates for president in 2028, it makes me wonder what would happen if he started doing that in reverse, right? I mean, what would happen if he sends out a tweet saying that Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Donald Trump are evil, right? Reflecting their language, using the same language, and demanding that his attorney general, maybe Attorney General Kamala Harris, who name it, all right, that his attorney general prosecute them. It would be, we wouldn't be a democracy.
Well, look, I just have to be careful I don't go on and on and on.
Yes,
but
of course.
I'll start with this. When Trump first got elected, and I wrote hundreds of columns probably for the Daily Beast, essentially making this point that Trump and the Republicans have abandoned the middle ground, this sort of moral majority. And what Democrats should do is, rather than trying to ape Donald Trump or radicalize like Trump, what they should do is be the sane party of institutions. And they should resist the urge to do radical things, like don't make DC a state, don't pack the Supreme Court, you be normal, show the American people that you're normal. I know there's a lot of caveats and factors involved, but the bottom line, Tom, that didn't work. Democrats tried to be normal and it didn't work. And so I actually think, put aside what's best for the country, I think that it might actually work if Gavin Newsom were to do this. The big danger is that what would Trump do to him? I mean, right now, would it be better for Gavin Newsom to wait till he's president before he orders the arrest of Bongino and Bondi and JD Vance? Or should he say it now? I think saying it now would actually make him more popular. That's messed up, but it would also make him a target of hate speech, Tom. He would be accused of hate speech or something.
Well, that's funny because our former governor, Martin O'Malley, was on, I believe it was Maddow months ago, when these ICE disappearings were really ramping up, and back at a time, try to think back just a few months to when we did not know whether Kilmar Abrego Garcia or any of the other number of folks placed in a foreign prison, CCOT in El Salvador, would be returned. Martin O'Malley is the one who floated, well, there are local laws, and if anybody kidnaps somebody from off the street, there are kidnapping laws, and suggested maybe it would be time to start enforcing those. It's not hard to see how something like this could ramp up even more than where we are right now.
Well, it'd be hard for me to tell Democrats the same advice I gave them in the past. I mean, in the past, I wanted them, to be the party of institutions, the party of norms. That didn't work. Now, again, I think you could argue like, well, it's because Joe Biden was 1 million years old, and it's because Kamala Harris is a woman, and she picked him, whoever. The bottom line is Democrats tried that playbook and it failed. Yeah. And I actually think that there is an opening for a Democratic candidate to say, let me tell you how this is going to go down. Day one, when I'm elected, we're going to round up all these MAGA people and arrest them. And look, that's not unprecedented. I remember Pat Buchanan, they asked him, what do you do what are you going to do on day one if you're elected? And he said, I'm going to turn to William Jefferson Clinton and read him his Miranda rights. Now, Pat said that with a wink, I mean, he had that tongue in cheek a little bit, and then I think it's like, next we're going to have, 15 Supreme Court justices, and next we're going to make DC a state. I think if someone did that, they actually could gain steam. Now, there could be a lot of negative repercussions that come from this, right? It could be, number one, a permission structure for Republicans to do it now that they have power. Let's do it now, or they're going to do it to us, right? It could also, I mean, again, as you hinted at, Tom, it creates this like where the country spirals out of control, and whoever's in power. But like, I actually think that based on the egregiousness of Trump, that if a Democrat actually did that, it would, I think there's a hunger for someone to say that and do it. And by the way, Democrats are now the party, they're basically the party of people like me. I mean, they're campaigning like they're, conservative suburbanites.
Oh,
I think maybe play a little class warfare, might actually like, what we're going to do? We're going to take Elon Musk's money and we're going to give that to some poor people. I don't think Elon Musk needs to be a billionaire. I mean, look, this is not my politics. Right. I'm just being an analyst here. But I think that there's room to run there, man. And it's, as you mentioned, I mean, that becomes a very dangerous scenario. But I think that there's a lot of Democrats that are tired of listening to people like I did tell them, you be the adult part, you do the right thing.
There's a lot of rage out there. Matt, we're going to wrap this up here. So folks, if you don't know, please subscribe to Matt Lewis in the News, excellent podcast. Also hosts, I would note, the DMZ podcast with our friend Bill Scher over at the Washingtonian. A very I need to reach out to Bill. Maybe I should get all three of us together.
We've done it. We've done it in the past. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a minute. Where do we find you? If you're not subscribed already, here, how do we find your work?
Well, read me every week in the LA Times. Read me fortnightly at The Hill. Check out that YouTube channel, Matt Lewis in the News, and also Substack.
On the
Matt Lewis in the Newsletter on Substack.
Oh ho! I love it. That's right. I will admit I did not know this at first. Play on Huey Lewis in the News. So
yeah, I'm very lame and increasingly a boomer. So
what's a Gen X Umer? An X Umer?
My Gen X name is Matt Lewis Can't Lose. That's my audio podcast, and that is a long lost reference to a 1990s era Fox show, Fox, not Fox News, a Fox
Yes,
sitcom. Yeah.
right. Parker Lewis.
Parker Lewis Can't Lose. I tried to get Kathleen Parker to start a podcast with me where we called it Parker Lewis Can't Lose, but in lieu of that, I've taken this name.
You, sir, are a legend. That is that's so good. All right, guys. Sign up for Matt's stuff, and thanks again for being here, Matt.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm back. Thanks again, Matt. That was excellent as always. So good having you with us, man. Guys, before we wrap up the show, want to catch up on a few items here. Number one, I think some good reading, and do make sure head on over to 24site.news if you haven't already. Sign up. You'll get the email with the show and my notes, links for stories I'm looking at right now. How do I keep up on things? This is the question I get asked very often. How do I know what to talk about, what to report on? I'm plugged into the hive mind constantly. This is why you got folks like me, our other independent journalists out here. We do this so you don't have to. Big part of my thinking with this, and part of the reason I structure it this way is, number one, we're not hair on fire around here. Look, I'm going to tell it to you straight. Things are bad. Okay, I mean, there's no other way of stating it. When you have the president of the United States wielding the power of the entire executive branch to, as best he possibly can, lash out at people based on their politics, based on their beliefs, based on their ideologies. All right, there's no other way of stating that. But I also think it's very important to handle these things calmly because, as Matt noted there earlier, look, this is a marathon. All right. We've got 3 years and 4 more months of this. All right. There is a lot of time. We got to take our time, handle things calmly, collectively. All right. We're in this together. I want to read a few things before I say thanks to our sponsors, folks who are supporting independent journalism. Number one, check this out. It's a little counterintuitive. I want you to read this in the Atlantic. It's from David Frum, very thoughtful. It's also a sentiment that was shared by Charlie Sykes at his newsletter, To the Contrary, earlier today. Here's the headline: Trump might be losing his race against time. The president is gambling that he can consolidate authority before the public turns too sharply against him. Writes David Frum in the Atlantic. Quote, President Donald Trump is worried that Attorney General Pam Bondi is moving too slowly to prosecute his political adversaries on fake charges. And Trump has good reason to be concerned. He is carrying out his project to consolidate authoritarian power against the trend of declining public support for his administration and himself. He is like a man trying to race upward on a downward moving escalator. If he loses the race, he will be pulled over ever deeper below, and the escalator keeps moving faster against him. Autocracies are headed by one man, but require the cooperation of many others. Some collaborators may sincerely share the autocrat's goals, but opportunists provide a crucial margin of support. In the United States, such people now have to make a difficult calculation. Do the present benefits of submitting to Trump will outweigh the future hazards? Very important question there, as we discussed earlier, Matt and I. Also, very interesting in the independent news space. If you don't already, make sure to check out 404 News, the tech newsletter. This is fascinating and also speaks to the nuances of what we're dealing with here. 404, the tech newsletter, headline: We're suing ICE for its $2 million spyware contract. Okay. On Monday, 404 Media filed a lawsuit against ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, demanding the agency publish its $2 million contract with Paragon, a company that makes powerful spyware that can remotely break into mobile phones without the target even clicking a link. Now, what's interesting about this 404 notes is that they first went after this during the Biden administration. So it was during Biden that they found out about this and filed a Freedom of Information Act request looking for this information. All right, what is the $2 million contract with ICE? 4 of 4, Joseph Cox here notes in the story that its signature, Paragon's signature, is something called graphite. All right, that's their signature service. Graphite, quote, graphite is capable of letting police remotely break into messaging apps like WhatsApp, Signal, Facebook Messenger, and Gmail, according to a 2021 report from Forbes. While other government spyware tries to take over an entire device, allowing all sorts of capabilities, Paragon sets itself apart by promising to access just the messaging applications, according to Forbes. So I'll link both of those in the email that's going out this afternoon. Guys, thanks for being here. I want to say a big thanks to our supporters who help keep 24 Site News, Tom LoBianco reports, and our mission of independent journalism moving along. You know, the fact that we are not being merged, that we are not at the whims of billionaires who have to make political decisions with a White House that is openly stating it will silence its critics or anyone whose speech they don't like. That's why we're here as independent journalists. That's why I'm here. I've been doing this for decades now, and I continue to do this. It's more important now than ever to speak up. I want to read from, first of all, big thanks to Beth Solomon from Fire to Fabulous. Beth, thank you so much for your support. Guys, check her out. If you don't know, she wrote a very excellent book dealing with how to get back up on your feet if you have been fired. Of course, a lot of people got doged, to use the shorthand, certainly around here in the DC area. And she has some excellent advice. She has she's worked in the C-suite before, and has also been subject to being fired herself and having to dust herself up and get back on her feet, something we all go through. It's a very good book, From Fired to Fabulous. Also, big thanks to Manoj. Manoj Paulson runs projectmanagemymove.com. Guys, head on over there. If you're selling a house and don't have the time or energy to deal with cleanouts, contractors, or staging, he takes care of everything so you can avoid the stress and sell for top dollar. Go to projectmanagemymove.com and give him a call today. And I'll just tell you that since I worked with Manoj on this, he's a friend, and I did not know about this. I did not know what a distressed sale is. This is a real estate term. A distressed sale is when, unfortunately, somebody in your you get a death in the family, a divorce, some other reason that you need to move unexpectedly, put the house up on the market. A lot of times you won't be able to get the value it's really worth. So what Manoj does is he works with contractors. He coordinates the logistics with contractors, even to do basic things like just painting the house, making it look real nice. And that can get tens of thousands of dollars more in the sale price. All right. So head on over there, projectmanagemymove.com. All right, guys. And thank you for being here. Thanks for your support. Please share this if you know like-minded individuals trying to keep their heads on straight amidst all the chaos. Share this with them. All right. Send them on over here. We're here every day at noon on Substack. Again, at 8 p.m. live on 8 p.m. on Political Voices Network on YouTube. I do live in the comments over there. If you got comments, I'll get to them. And I appreciate you. We are in a marathon. See you again tomorrow. We got Mike Madrid, co-founder of the Lincoln Project, coming on. We're going to be talking about shifting Latino voter sentiments. Very interesting. All right, guys.